Tim, this is going to be the challenge for you. Can you pronounce the name of our upcoming speaker properly?
I will give it a shot. I got to make sure my mouth is clear because I might spit something out. Corentin. I don't know. I wanted to be on the stage.
That was the right emphasis.
Fine, go ahead. You do it then.
Well, what I do is I basically try to think French as much as possible, like putting myself in mind of various French things, French fries, French bread.
Yes.
And then I say Corentin.
Oh, wow. That feels slightly emasculating that you actually pronounced it that much better. I don't know why, but it's like, for whatever reason, my very lame French accent. There he is.
And here's our
speaker. I'm here. Hello, everyone.
Okay, send me gone. Send me gone for that poor French accent. Away we go.
Thanks a lot for this very warm intro.
Our pleasure. So what are you going to be talking about today?
So I'm going to talk about having difficult conversations.
Excellent.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. Well, that is the cue for Real Men Cry to be bounced off the stage, I think.
And for me as well. We're going to leave the stage and Corentin. And again, Tim, try that one more time. Corentin.
That sounds like you got some stuff in your nose. It sounds like you're nasally. Corentin. Is that
the chat room is saying it's the right way to do it.
Very nasally. See, Fawn said very nasally. Now, you say it. You say it now. Not you, Chris, our guest. You say it.
Corentin.
Okay, so you weren't right, Chris. I want everybody to know that you weren't right either, because that did not sound like the way you did it, and it also didn't.
Pretty similar to me, but we'll let the chat room decide.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
We should do a vote. All right, so hello everyone. So super happy to be here with you today. So the topic of today is going to be about difficult conversation. And that's a very important topic. But before, spoiler alert, you may want to close your ear for the next slide in case you haven't seen season 2 of Ted Lasso, because we're going to have a major spoiler. We actually already talked about that yesterday, but there was a huge drift that happened at the end of season 2 between Nate and Ted. So they had this huge fight, and now Nate became this arch enemy. And all during the second season, there were moments that were a bit weird, where actually instead of having a difficult conversation about Nate's behavior and maybe clearing things up, and everyone just like stared at each other. There were like some weird moments, and at the end of the day, there was this huge fight. And if you work long enough, you may have the chance to experience some of these difficult moments, which as a founder, I had a few experiences working with other people. So the talk of today is going to be about difficult conversations. But before going into in depth, I'm going to give you some information about me quickly. So I am interested in emotional intelligence. I first came across this concept back in 2008. I attended a teaching with the Dalai Lama, and that's when I heard about Daniel Goleman for the first time. And that's been an interest of mine. I'm not an expert, but I think it's something very interesting. And then that's something that gained a lot more importance the last few years, this topic of emotional intelligence. And so difficult conversations is part of that. I am a team builder. That's sometimes I use this way to describe what I do. So I am a founder of a company called Orca, and I do create teams, and we create custom software, digital products. My belief is that there's a lot of software that's not good today, and we deserve better software. And in order to create better software, better digital products, we need to have better teams we need to have people working collaboratively in better ways, and that's some of our those are some of my motivations behind what I'm doing. And I'm a bit of a world citizen, so I'm currently in Palo Alto, but I come from France. Corentin is actually a Breton name from French Brittany, but I worked and live in London quite a bit. So actually, the shirt is from London. I actually got it when I did some shopping with a friend that I met in Mexico. I didn't put Mexico in Guadalajara, actually in Mexico. I didn't put the pin on this map, and I also spent a bit of time in Australia and then in other parts of the US and Europe. Another thing that triggered this talk today, like this conversation I'm having with you, is so we came across during the Clubhouse room. We talked about this story with Nate, and so that triggered the difficult conversation topic. But also personally, I think it's very relevant today. There is this concept of global village that was invented back in the 60s. And that's behind a lot of the ideology of Silicon Valley startups that are very influential today, like Facebook. But there's this misunderstood concept that actually global village is actually not a peaceful place. And there's also this concept of connected society, which we are living today with mobile devices, with social networks. We're all connected with each other. And so it's becoming more and more important to actually becoming better at communicating with each other, because with this connected society, then the conflicts have wider repercussions. More people become affected, and then that happens faster as well. So becoming better at having this difficult conversation is actually very important. So in the next few slides, so hopefully by now I convey the importance of having these difficult conversations. And in the next few slides, I'm going to share a framework that I learned the last 8 weeks. So I just finished this program from a startup based in San Francisco called COA. This program was 8 weeks. And the topic that I'm going to share now came at the very end when we talked about communication. So I don't have the pretension to be able to teaching you all the entire content, but hopefully I'll spark within you the interest to become better, to make some research, to try to have these conversations and eventually become better, and also share with other people. If you have some of the skills, then to share more these skills with other people, so that we can improve things. And so, as I said, so this topic came at the very end of the program, but first we talked about self-awareness, empathy, mindfulness, curiosity, play, and resilience, which are 7 traits of emotional fitness that are important for people in leadership positions. So empathy is one of the key topics. So one of the things we talked about is as leaders, we jump to conclusions straight away when there's a conflict with another person. So the topic of empathy is important, is before jumping to conclusions, then trying to put yourself in the other person's shoes and trying to understand the situation from their point of view. Another topic as well we talked about is the worry wall, this concept of worry wall, which is basically a wall that we built, all of us, around ourselves to protect ourselves. But actually it's making us more vulnerable, and so it's a defense that we built, but then this defense actually is counterproductive. So we may avoid to have difficult conversations because we believe something, we fear something, and then those fears are just actually creating a separation, and actually it's detrimental. So now I'm going to introduce you to this communication compass. And so the communication compass, there are 4 parts. So first is the situation, then we have the emotion, and then we have the we, and then when we notify. So I'm going to share some more information about this communication compass in the next few slides. So the script. So there's a script that you can use that's based on the compass. So when you do X, I feel Y. So here are some of the examples of how this can turn out in real life situations. When you do not share information with me, that will help me to lead a project. I feel excluded. So that's like an example. And so there is the situation, and then that's when you do something, talking about the other person, then you can share your emotion. Then I feel something. And it's important when you express when you X, that actually you're not judgmental, and then you are not attacking the other person, but you talk about the situation. When another person do something, then you feel an emotion. And then now I'm introducing you to the vocabulary. So we sometimes lack vocabulary to express our emotions. And actually, that's one thing that was very interesting with Ted Lasso, the TV series, that actually there's the emotions, and so it's something that comes a lot. And so here's a slide with some category of emotions: angry, scared, sad, discouraged, and others. So and some words that can be used. So having actually the words to express emotions is actually very important, and that's something that we can all become better at. And that's the different parts of the script. So then there's the situation when you X, then there's the emotion, I feel Y, and then the other part is the we, and talking about the problem. So we look at the problem, and then instead of you being against me, it's how can we as a team can work on actually the problem. So here as some examples. So it's looking, instead of having two persons fighting with each other, then you have a team, you have a group that's actually looking at a problem from a constructive point of view, like how can we solve the problem. So for instance, instead of thinking, I want to lead this project by myself, and you seem to want to lead this project by yourself, and then we can talk about how can we work together to make sure we're clear and excited about roles on this team. So changing perspective and having this idea of we is very important. And that's already the end of the presentation. So some of these are some of the books that I've been reading recently. So Unleash is a book that's written by Frances Fry, and she talks about better working environment and also the idea of belonging, and very active on Clubhouse. And also in there's a book that Chris as well wrote that is very interesting, called The Alliance, and is all about having better working relationships between employees and person who work on teams and businesses. So thank you very much, everyone. And that's it on my end.
Here we
Chris.
are.
Here we are.
And by the way, once I saw it, I ran over to my office and picked up a copy of this. So I actually have it in real life.
Amazing. Yeah. So I love the book, and I'm actually in process of trying to implement that with the teams I'm working with, and also using some elements of of COA in terms of having conversations. And
wonderful.
Yeah. So it's super interesting. The working environment is changing, and what we witness in Ted Lasso a TV series, it doesn't have to happen. And I think it's changing slowly. So yeah.
So let's practice. Hopefully you can give some advice to Nate. So let's picture Nate. We're in a situation where he kissed Keely and he's apologizing to Roy. And then he gets upset because Roy's like, that's okay, I forgive you. So how should Nate express his feelings in that moment?
That's that's a good. Actually, I was thinking of like I didn't get the time to do that, but I wanted to actually make like fake situation.
Yes.
So can you repeat again, like what was the situation? So when Keely kissed, like
So when he's you remember he's with the rest of the Diamond Dogs and he's admitting to Roy that he kissed Keely. Like he's obviously hurt by the fact that Roy just forgives him, which is the right thing for Roy to do, right? Roy shouldn't get violent with him, and yet Nate doesn't express. Nate feels something that moment. He doesn't express it.
Correct. Yeah. So whatever Nate's emotion was, actually, we can like I don't know what Nate was feeling at the time. What do you think Nate was feeling, Tim? What do you think his emotion was at the time when that happened?
Yeah, I mean, as opposed to, I have an idea of what the feelings were, but the thing that I loved about what you talked about and the emotional intelligence and being aware of our feelings and equally being aware of when someone's talking about their feelings. The thing we talked about yesterday with Heidi and we've talked about on our thing and our friend from France. So I'm not going to say his name so I don't embarrass myself and say, but we've talked so much about the value of getting help, or the way I call it, working on our own shit. So when you talk about this interaction, the importance of, and some people say feelings aren't facts, and Chris and I had a long discussion about this. I actually don't agree with that. I think feelings are facts. They provide data and they are real. And what my experience is to the extent that I've worked on my shit, I am more apt to have a reaction that is exactly what you talked about in your talk, which is when you said this, I felt this. I think it's important to just to note that it's not when you said this, you made me feel this.
That's
because
right.
then it not only does it like put it on the other person, next thing you know, the other person's trying to solve my feelings. You know what I mean? And so in this interaction you're talking about, you know, that sometimes it's just like you got to take that breath and say, wow, there's something going on here and I need to take responsibility for it. And also either continue the conversation or excuse myself from it and say, I'm willing to come back to it when I'm not there. But the problem with Nate is that he doesn't see masculinity as encompassing gentleness or compassion or forgiveness. Correct. So anyway, I just want to put that broader scope to it because you're it's lovely to hear your perspective on it because you have a whole different upbringing and approach on it. That emotional intelligence, by definition, involves emotions, and those are difficult to talk about, difficult to listen to. So that's a long-winded way I would answer that question.
Thanks a lot. And also the other thing as well that's required is self-awareness.
Yes.
And so that's complicated. You need to be self-aware, and you also need to have a vocabulary to be able to label the emotions. And those are like not easy.
Right. And it's, by the way, good and bad are not emotions. That took me like 5 years to learn. You know what I mean? When it's good or bad are not emotions. But the thing about Nate, and I'm sure we may talk about it at some point, but it's like him spitting in the mirror. It's interesting. We had a big conversation about this too. I don't know if other people related to what his feeling was when he spit in the mirror. If you do, you can put it in the chat. I don't know. Did you resonate with that feeling, Corentin?
The 8, I was like, yeah, and why is he doing that to himself? It's like it's not good. It's like the way you talk to yourself and you behave with yourself is. I read somewhere like it's the most important conversation you have is the conversation you have with yourself, and that's sort of like stick in my. So when you are like hating yourself, that can't be very good. So
I think the Reverend Nate. I want to interject for a second. I think the Reverend Nate. So our Reverend Nate in the chat room had a really interesting point, which is a lot of it's about the way that Nate's father embodies masculinity. I never thought of it that way before, but you see how differently Nate's dad treats him versus the way he treats his wife or niece or other things like that. He treats women very differently than he treats men. It's as if in the male space, you need to be aggressive and dominant. And Nate does not treat Keely at all in a way that he would treat someone like Will, for example, or Jade, the maitre d' in the restaurant, right? Even though he comes on strong with her, he never treats her abusively. So he treats women very differently. He treats men. There's something very different about how he perceives that relationship.
Well, the things that we're pointing to and that we're mentioning here is the self-awareness puts us in a position where we have to have difficult conversations, and that includes like saying things that are difficult to say, and maybe even being in a conversation and hearing things that are difficult to hear. I read a book called Crucial Conversations, which was amazing about this very topic. But in the end, it's like, I have my biggest challenge of having these difficult conversations that you modeled so beautifully for us, Corentin, is with my daughter. When things get tricky with my daughter, it's like really where I need that self-awareness to listen to her and let her express her feelings and not jump in to try and solve things. So, right.
One thing that's also, sorry, Tim, also to jump on what you said. So one thing that's important as well is like difficult conversations do not have to be difficult necessarily if you like start early, because as we saw with Nate, I mean, after a point, you just like the relationship just like break and just disintegrate, right? But if you catch that early on, you see like, and during the series, there are always like moments I was mentioning at one point, like each of these moments were like a trigger when actually they could have like, hey, what's going on with you, Nate? Like, and also the concept of curiosity, it becomes important. Like, just not like, hey, you are aggressing with me, but like, hey, what's happening? Like, and then try to unpack things. But yeah, difficult conversations do not have to be necessarily difficult if like caught early, and that's where like being super self-aware and all these other things comes in. And then if too late, then you've got consequences and the whole mess as well to deal with. So.
And I know Chris is going to pass on. I'm going to get bumped off stage again, but it's interesting that Chris and I are so close and have been so close. I know, so close, and have known each other for so long. Chris's self-talk is like Barney. My self-talk is like that guy from Taxi Driver. So when he spits in the mirror, I resonate with it. Travis Bickle, he has Barney talking to him. I have Travis Bickle talking. Are you talking to me? So anyway, thank you, Corentin. You were amazing. You can. I wanted to jump on stage because you're talking about feelings. So now you can bump me off.
Exactly. It's like Beetlejuice. You mentioned feelings 3 times and Tim shows up. So Corentin, thank you so much for coming on stage and being a part of this community. We have to meet now that you're in Palo Alto. We're going to have to get together in person. We'll take a photograph and share it with the rest of the community.
But heaven knows I tried.